What do you think the biggest challenges or mistakes people make in hiring agencies?
There's three main things that we talk about. The first one is profit retention. So when you are scaling, especially when you're scaling, you don't want to give away money, right? You don't want to sell your soul to the devil. You don't want to say, oh, as long as I get to 7 figures, I don't care how much it's going to cost me. Because at the end of the day, profit is what pays the bills and revenue is for the ego. And so if you have a 7-figure business that has a 10% profit margin, you're still making only $100,000. If you have a $250,000 business and you're retaining $150,000, you are in a better position than the person. I would argue in a much better position, because if you are hitting 7 figures, you probably have a lot of other problems from the operations perspective anyway.
And now the man you've been waiting for, John, the sales machine, Rankins.
Ladies and gentlemen, today's guest is a digital entrepreneur who's been in the game for almost 2 decades, creating 7-figure Amazon brands, growing a Google Ads agency, and scaling a high-ticket consulting firm. He spent 14 years behind the mic as a podcaster. He's interviewed over 450 entrepreneurs. He's an Amazon best-selling author and the founder of The Remote CEO. His mission, ladies and gentlemen, is really to empower businesses to become self-sustainable with their marketing and generating leads to be successful in a sustainable way. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Deniero Bartolini.
Hey, thanks for having me here today.
Right on. So you're the remote CEO, and Deniero, your name rocks. It's all about the money. Everybody needs money. No matter what they say, they need money. And you help people generate leads, make more money, and you're called, the agency terminator. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yes. So 100%. There's been a period in my life, about 2010, actually, I started a remote agency. I was doing podcast bookings and PR, and I was operating on a done-for-you basis, and we were getting results for our clients. But to make money and to be able to sustain my business, I had to charge my clients quite a lot. And what I realized that some of my clients were not going to stay if I had kept on charging them that way. And so we changed the model and we started teaching their own staff members how to run their own mini agencies. And the game changed since then. We never looked back. What we do now, we come in. If you have some team members that can spare some time, we can train them on how to get you agency results without spending agency money. If you don't have someone, we help you onboard a pre-vetted virtual assistant. They charge about $5 an hour, and then we train that person on how to get you agency results at a fraction of the cost. The way that we work is a fee basis, one-time fee up front, and then obviously down the road, there's other ways that we can re-engage with our clients. But the idea is that once they have the system, they can run their own marketing, save money, retain more profit, and be in control of their growth.
That's fantastic. And I'm going to cross-pollinate that idea. I had Mark Roberge on the podcast who scaled HubSpot. I'm sure you've heard of them. Yeah. He talked to his mentor about how is he going to scale HubSpot, the Salesforce and everything. And the same psychology that you're talking about, he used building out his entire sales team in HubSpot. And that psychology was build an agency in your own business and make that agency in HR, who's doing all of the recruiting, get them and give them the rewards that you would pay an outside agency to do. So actually, in actuality, great minds think alike. And, HubSpot's a $30 billion business. So I would not know that if I didn't have Mark on my podcast, who's a total badass. So shout out to Mark, but also a shout out to you having a similar idea. The key to marketing today, especially with all the false prophets out there, and they're all over the internet, is really to have an agency within your business. I love what you're doing. I want to know more about how you're doing it.
Yes. So the way that we're setting this up is we have an internal team. I put my money where my mouth is, so to speak. So my team members are mostly virtual assistants from the Philippines. We pre-vet them in a very interesting way. We do different types of assessments. We have several interviews. We want to make sure, obviously, that they have good internet, that they can speak proper English, etc. And then we give them part of our percentage, like percentage of our sales. Obviously, John, you know that if I am giving 3 to 4 to 5% of sales to someone in the United States, they're going to be happy, but it's not going to be life-changing. But if I do that in countries where they're making less money on average, they're going to be hyper motivated. Obviously, again, you got to have the right people, but once you have the right people and the right place where you can do some sort of arbitrage when it comes to salary, and take the same money, put it where it's going to be a lot more, perceived as a lot more, and then you're going to have hyper committed staff members. They're going to be able to train more virtual assistants on similar things. Now, here's the thing. They don't have to do anything crazy here. We build the stations, we build the train tracks, we build the little city. So the ecosystem, the ecosystem of the agency, we build it. And then we want to have trained individuals that are going to go from point A to point B at the right time. It's all already, pre-programmed. All they need to do is just open a manual, learn, and do this. Now, I can add one more thing. We were doing pretty well before generative AI, but you can imagine now where you can have a Filipino or an Indian person or anybody else that speaks English well enough to put something together, but then feeds that info to a chat GPT or something and is able to turn that into a perfect piece of copy. Then you can have people that don't speak or write perfect English be able to communicate digitally with other individuals as if they were, like native English speaker. And so now we have this whole new box that we opened when it comes to content creation, when it comes to social media, community engagement, and all the other things that historically had to be done by English speaking individuals.
Yeah. And, today, a shout out not only to the Philippines, but I'm coming to you live from the Philippines. This is my Philippines studio that we're doing this podcast in today. It's not my Las Vegas studio. So I've got more than 60 people in the Philippines, not only for my production and the software and other products and stuff that I'm involved with, especially for the sales machine. I agree with you 1,000%. It's not something new that's happening because, if I go downtown, whether I'm in Makati, whether I'm in Ortigas, or I'm at Fort Bonifacio, guess who else is using the talents of the Philippines? JP Morgan Chase, Wells Fargo. All the biggest brands in the world are outsourcing the talent here in the Philippines because not only can they do it for a fraction of the cost, but they're more committed to doing it because one Filipino on average supports 5 other Filipinos as breadwinners. So shout out. I love it. And I've been in Southeast Asia doing business for more than 30 years. It's not making it about me. It's just validating that this country, the Philippines, produces amazing talent, committed, hardworking. Shout out to everybody on my team as well, because you guys have made this, that's one of the top podcasts in the world in less than 8 months. So you guys are badasses. I'm going to shout that out to my team. So let's talk about your methodology, how you're unlike other agencies. Not only do you empower, your mission is to power businesses to have an internal agency, which is phenomenal. I do that with my recruiting. I do that with my salespeople, my marketers. What is the methodology you're using that's unlike other agencies that's generating more results?
All right. So initially, when we started doing marketing, we were doing Facebook ads services for Google Ads, and so paid advertising. Then we found out about a new way of doing cold email outreach. And so what we're currently doing for our clients, so we have 6 systems in total. 5 of them are brand building strategies, the famous, like PR, podcast bookings, podcast launch, social media management, SEO. Then we have one direct marketing strategy, and we chose to purposely only have one because we want our clients to really focus on that, which is, again, cold email outreach. We help our clients send thousands of emails per day to targeted cold leads. And with these new AI-powered systems, the cost of doing cold email outreach drastically dropped, I would say almost to 90% less than what it used to cost. And so now you just need some people that are trained on how to operate these systems. Then you have one person in the Philippines, anywhere in the world that you want to manage the pipeline, and you can create a AI-powered virtual sales team with a bit less than maybe $500 to $600 a month. Now, with that said, to get the same results with advertising, our clients generally spend anywhere between $1,000 to $2,000 in ad spend. And so the power of organic is really what connects all our systems, all our 6 systems. Organic outreach, being able to find the right people online, and using free, quote unquote, free ways of communicating, like email, to email as many people as possible in a way, obviously, that's not spammy, but it works very well. Now, I do want to mention that obviously cold email outreach is something you can do only for B2B services. And so that is kind of where we draw the line and where we work with our clients with that. But if you do any B2B service, cold email outreach is really what's been helping us grow as fast as we have been, as well as our clients.
Okay, great. And let's talk about some of the clients you've worked with. Can you share some case studies with us of what you've done for some of your clients, and what was the ROI on that campaign?
Yes, absolutely. So we have different clients coming from different areas. Again, we are industry agnostic. I can give you a couple of examples. Again, 6 systems. One of them would be podcast launch. One of our clients started in Toronto doing basically they were just doing real estate sales, and they were a real estate broker, and they wanted to have a way to send their message out there. And they built a podcast quite quickly using our systems, and we're again operating remotely from the Philippines. And then our client was in Toronto, but they had staff members in the Philippines, and they built their podcast to top 2% global in very short time as well. But the interesting thing about that is that he was then connecting, like his job became also to connect investors with developers. So through the podcast, so we would have developers on the show talking about the project, and then they would have their listeners call in or even email and get more information about those deals, and then he would get a cut of those deals. So it was literally creating new ways of monetizing podcasts that we've never even thought about before. So that's one example. Then we have other clients that are working in the consulting industry, clients that are specifically working in the manufacturing consulting industry. They're using our cold email outreach systems to reach out to factories and plants and striking very good performance-based deals in just a few days, basically. And the idea was, before it was like, oh, I don't know where to reach out to these people, because the business owners and, the business owners of these types of big plants and whatnot, often they're not on LinkedIn. They're obviously not on Instagram scrolling through Reels. So it was very hard for our clients to reach out to them. And so finding out the right tools to find out the right email addresses, to verify the email addresses, and to have a tool that can send messages at scale really helped them connect really quickly with a lot of people. And so that's another example. Then we have clients that come to us because they want to appear on podcasts, like I'm on today, and we help them build these podcast outreach systems, just like an agency. Now, because they have it internally, they can decide when to push and when not to push. Sometimes they're busy doing other things, and they told me, The problem even working with other agencies when you're paying them on a monthly basis is that you don't want to miss out on opportunities that you're paying for. And so you're always on this kind of like treadmill. Like, now the idea is, at the same time, when you have something internal, when I said you're in control of your growth, I'm saying it because I've seen the growing pains of my business. Sometimes I really wanted to push with sales. Sometimes I got 15 clients in 2 weeks, and now I'm like, what am I going to do? And so again, if you have the system internally, you can slow down, you can, push harder when it's time to push harder. And so these are the kind of 3 examples that we give when we talk about success stories within our business.
And I love how you've connected the dots between the buyer and the seller. And it doesn't matter what industry, as far as being strategic, getting the developers and then the salespeople connected, or the investors connected with the developer, is really creating low-hanging fruit for both parties. So I really love how you've done that and cross-pollinated it. And I get offers all the time to grow my podcast. This is number 57 in like 6 months or 8 months. I pay zero. People, and I've gotten billionaires on the podcast. Potentially, they just love the name, the Sales Machine, because, I'm a new guy. I'm the FNG. I'm the freaking new guy, as they say in the military, with, more colorful language. And I know because I was in the military. So anyway, in saying that, though, I'm the new guy. And I 100% believe in podcasts, especially getting the word out there and the knowledge out there for people who need it to go from ordinary to extraordinary, because there's, big business have big money and they have more resources. So my attitude for the Sales Machine is to get experts on the show that know what to do, how to do it, how to implement it, so that, the small guys can become the big guys. And you've been in this game. You said you made one of your clients a top 2% podcaster. You're also a top 2% podcaster, over 450 episodes, 14 years. What is your secret sauce to becoming a 2% podcaster?
So I started podcasting. Funny enough, I started podcasting in 2010, not for business. I used to be a DJ back in the day. And my first podcasts, my very, very first podcasts were podcast episodes were just like streams of my shows, basically. And because I saw early on what a podcast could do for my brand, when I decided to find an alternative way to build my business brand, it was just a normal transition. All I had to do was clear off my old content on my screen, my music content, and upload my spoken content. And I obviously created a different channel, different branding, obviously nothing at all, like it was not related at all. But the idea was, how can I use my past skills and transition those skills into my new venture? And so that's actually been a big, like, repurposing talents. I think it's what you said, what took me to a 2%, repurposing those talents that I've used. For example, podcasting, that led me to start my business podcast, which again, now we have 450 interviews, 630 episodes. The way that I started interviewing my guests, a lot of it came from my experience in sales. And so because I needed to enunciate my words better, I needed to ask better questions during the sales process. I needed to figure out a way to stay on top of, all my bookings and my calendar. And I was like, if I'm already doing it for sales, why not repurpose that skill in my podcast? And so I started interviewing people, because the podcast originally was a solo show. That's why there's so many more episodes than there are interviews. Then when I felt more confident on the phone having these conversations, I said, why not? And then I applied that to my podcast. And so that helped me propel the show even further. And so again, John, to answer your question, if there was one thing that helped me get to top 2%, obviously that would be consistency for first and foremost. And then my ability to be like, hey, I learned this thing back in the day. Can I see how I can twist it and kind of fit it into this new puzzle?
Tell me more about, Smart Business and a Better You, the book, the international bestseller that you wrote, and how you use that formula in businesses now with their marketing and building their marketing agencies within their own company.
Yes. So I wrote this book as an entry point to our ecosystem. The reason why, obviously, it's a low barrier to entry. It's a $20, $25 book. But the idea is that a freelancer or a business owner, a solopreneur that's moving forward in their business, when they're going to cross that, that point of going from just being them to hiring a staff member or 2 staff members. So that book is for them. There's a lot more practical advice when it comes to routine, mindset, personal lifestyle choices that you want to make, values. So it's a book that I wrote for a business owner that's starting out. Then once they kind of graduate from that stage and they want more, they hit that like 10, 15K month, kind of like a couple of months in a row, then they're going to be like, okay, what am I going to do next? So the Remote CEO Academy and the Remote CEO program itself is more for that business owner that already has 2-3 people, that already want to kind of repurpose someone's schedule a bit, or they want to hire even more individuals. And the most important thing in this book, in my opinion, is the formulas that are also present in our high ticket programs. So the idea is that we want to show people what's possible on their own. And then once they reach that point when they actually want help, they can reach out to us, obviously, and then we can take it from there.
You're titled the Remote CEO. Did someone give you that name, or how did that come about?
So I used to do speaking engagements in Toronto, and I used to be in Toronto full time. And then there was a time where I decided to start traveling. Now I'm in Italy. We again go to Toronto often now, but we are traveling often. And I started having these speaking engagements on Zoom even before COVID. And so the person that was used to introduce me to these groups of people, jokingly one day said, "Yeah, today we have the CEO, but he's like remote, so it's a remote CEO," and everybody was laughing. And then from there, I kind of decided to rebrand my podcast in 2018. Just changed the name; it stayed the same, but we just changed the name. And then since then, we started our agency right after. Or not as agency, but the consultancy. And I was like, hey, it sounds good. It's keyword rich, as an SEO would say. And I was like, let's do that.
Hey, I love it. So I've been training salespeople all over the world. And a lot of people say the sales machine, that's a really cool name. Like that really vibes. And, it makes sense. The sales machine, how'd you come up with that? And I'm like, well, I've been training salespeople for my whole life. I mean, I was a paper boy. I used to mow lawns. And then, I got other people to do it. I got my brothers to do it, right? From the paper route. Like I got them, I enrolled them, while I was getting the bankroll. I enrolled them in helping me mow lawns while I was getting the bankroll. They got paid really well. And so people are like, well, how'd you come up with the sales machine? And I said, well, I've had people call me a sales machine. They're like, you are a sales machine. And I'm like, well, I like to generate sales machines for everyone else's business. And that's how it came about. And it's just stuck. So I love it when, it comes organically. So people having labeled me like as a sales machine, I'm like, hey, that works. Let's go to thesalesmachine.com. Boom, $10. Let's do this. And that's how the sales machine came about. And that's why we've stuck with that as a software.
That's a very good name.
And potentially it's resonating because, I've got, billionaires have joined the podcast and some true badasses. I mean, sales leaders around the world, like Mark Roberge, who built HubSpot, Jeffrey Gitomer, who wrote the Red Book of Sales, the Sales Bible, Keenan from Gap Selling. Like, these guys are really legends in the sales arena. They've created an ecosystem similar to what you're doing as far as an ecosystem of helping companies grow. And you jumping on here is really cool coming from the marketing standpoint. I come more from the selling standpoint, whereas I already know, though, sales is a lot easier when you do marketing correctly. So you want to speak to how marketing empowers salespeople and companies?
Absolutely. So when I look at it, the way that I look at it is sales is the food of the restaurant, and marketing and branding is the actual ambiance once you enter the restaurant. Obviously, you can have amazing food, but if it's not pre-packaged in a way where people feel at ease sitting down, ordering a glass of wine, staying there for a long time, you're not going to get the results that you want, no matter how good the chef is. All right. And so the way that we see this and the way that we talk to our clients, what makes sense to them when we tell them, is that if you have a good sales team or a salesperson, but you don't have good marketing collateral from the information that people find about you when they Google your business, to everything else that comes with the messaging up to the sales call, and even sometimes after the sales call, if the call is not a closed one immediately and turns into a follow-up, all that stuff that happens from from when the client or the prospect finds out about you to the moment where they decide needs to follow a path alongside sales, right? And so things that we do for our clients is, okay, let's look at the first page of Google when people are there thinking, should I buy from this person or not? Right? So they're going to Google your name, the business owner's name, possibly if it's a smaller business. If it's a larger business, they're going to Google the name of the business directly. They're going to look at possibly reviews. They're going to look at podcast episodes and interviews of the CEO or something. They're going to Google their website. Is the website loading fast? What's on the website? And so all these things go in that package that the prospect receives during the sales process. And so, like I said, our goal is to, with the brand building strategies, is not to give you leads. I always say, this is not leads on tap. When you go on a podcast, you could get a lot of leads. You could get no leads. The idea is that with the leads that you're currently getting, and so if you don't have any leads, then we tell them possibly cold email outreach could be a good fit, but everything else is there to increase conversion rate. It's there to increase close rate. When the salesperson is given the right tools to convince, so to speak, or to get the prospect to sell themselves, they need to have good tools, all right? And so that's what we do. In a nutshell, our goal is to help our clients be proud of their image online so that they can send their best salespeople out there and close a bunch of deals, even more than they would have if they didn't have that online presence.
Speak to me and our audience about, what's the difference, if there even is a difference, between the podcast marketing and the methodology you use and or webinars, and what have you found to be more effective, and or are they just complementary?
Good question. I used to use webinars a long time ago. We haven't used them in a long time. We prefer having more content that's periodical, coming out often, actually, like every week, possibly, if there's any other ways that you can interact with your clients. Also, the reason why is because webinars, even the evergreen webinars, which could really happen at, pop in anybody's inbox at the right time for the prospect, right? At the same time, people's attention span, it's not like people's attention spans got shorter. It's not even that. It's just there's more things to do. There's more content to consume. And so the idea is that we want to create bite-sized information content. What we do instead of webinars now, aside from podcasting, is we put people into an email sequence that lasts months. And every week we have a short video training. So instead of having a 45 1-hour webinar, we have a 7-minute training on a specific topic. And so the idea is that we know what our clients need to have in their tool belt before they start working with us. So some sort of a prerequisite information stack or whatever that is. And so what we do is we teach them that stuff. So if they're not there yet, when they go through the videos and they get to the end of the series, they are then ready. They feel like they're ready to start. See, the webinar could do the same thing, but instead of having an hour-long webinar, we break it down so that we give time to time, and like they're going to consumer content. Then obviously the short bite-sized video training comes with a very nice landing page that has all our information and more testimonials. And so the idea is that instead of having one webinar, which is like a one-shot kill, so to speak, and then if you don't get it, you got to go back to square one and think, okay, what am I going to show them now? We just break that thing down. We're not in a rush. Thankfully, leads are coming in anyway. So the idea here is that once you do have a strong source of leads where you don't have to worry about, getting leads from somewhere, you can build these longer term strategies that will help you indoctrinate your audience in a much better way than just hoping for them to show up on that one webinar.
You know what? I really like that methodology. I like that. You give them bite-sized pieces. And the more bite-sized pieces you give them, people are limited for time and they have a lot more choices today. So giving them the bite-sized pieces allows them to jump in on something where potentially if they didn't have an hour, they really don't have the hour. Like my team join webinars all the time because I don't have the time. But I love that bite-sized philosophy because we're all busy, right? And, I run several different companies, so I don't have the time to do, to jump on everybody else's webinar and or podcast and run my company at the same time, right? You're a remote CEO. It just makes more sense. You can actually catch more fish. You're casting a bigger net and you're making it easier for the fish to eat.
That's what it is.
Yeah, no, I love that. And so we're talking about the marketing aspect. And earlier you talked about, getting into, your remote CEO club and doing more high ticket offers and stuff like that. I'm industry agnostic as far as building and scaling sales teams and using automation to do that. The sales machine is like having 5 softwares in one. It's an all-in-one sales performance management system. In saying that, when I say industry agnostic, there's a lot of software companies out there, and I have a software company. We do multiple millions of dollars, if you're selling to IBM or you're selling to B2B solutions, sometimes there's 5 or 6 decision makers. There's long processes. Everything is considered high ticket. So when you talk about high ticket and or selling high ticket, have you been involved with selling high ticket corporation to corporation, or is it mostly individual to individual?
Yeah, so I started as a salesperson for 5 years. I used to do inside sales for a tech company in Toronto, and we used to sell packages to small and medium businesses, starting from $2,500 a month to even higher. Sometimes like 5,000 to 6,000 a month, 6 to 12 month contracts. Then I started my own agency. So the target market changed a bit. We started working with professional firms, mainly, again, 2,500, 10K. And now we work with any business up to about 200 employees. And our packages range between $5,000 to $15,000, $25,000, $28,000 is the highest one that we have. So I never personally worked with large corporations, but we worked for up to 200 individuals.
Okay, good. And so why don't you share with the audience what has been your methodology and or secret sauce to closing high ticket sales, whether it's B2C or B2B?
So for B2C, okay, so B2C we've done, obviously you can't push too much because unless you're working with a specific niche that really has disposable income, you are going to always hit that brick wall where, it just does not make sense financially for a family, possibly, whether it's coaching or any other type of consulting mainly. When it comes to B2B, what we found that works very well for us is to offer as much value as possible and to pack our offers as much as possible. We rarely bump down our prices. We do have first call incentives, but are generally about adding more value instead of cutting costs or cutting the price. And the reason why we found in the past that it's a slippery slope when you start lowering the price too much and too often, people take advantage of it and they just wait for the right time that obviously is never going to come, because then that means that you would have to sell at cost sometimes. And so the idea that it's worked very well for us is to have several ways to create value. Now, as a consultancy, we build our own systems, and then once they work for us and we kind of are 100% sure that they work well, then we sell them again to our clients. So often what happens is any new operations management collateral that comes up, we add to the packages. And then depending on who we're working with, sometimes we offer done for you setups as bonuses. So the idea is that our secret sauce is that we do have a huge amount of value to offer to our clients. And obviously we don't give it all up front because it wouldn't even make sense. But as we go through the sales process, we kind of realize what our clients are looking for. And then we're going to be like, well, once you get to this level, you may need this, this, and this. We're willing to give it to you right now. And so the idea is that creating, obviously, like we said it before, a very strong brand beforehand, so that if they Google you, when they Google you, they find out that they can, work with you and they trust you. That it's all about adding value instead of cutting price and going the other route.
I got it. And so the methodology and the mission is to create your own marketing agency within your own business, saving you thousands and thousands of dollars and being able to turn that marketing on tap within your business. And in saying that, what do you think the biggest mistake people make in investing in agencies? Because you're the terminator, the agency terminator is how your LinkedIn reads, right? Which I find it very cool because I've spent tens of thousands of dollars on agency, B2B, even B2C. I have my own internal team now, and I've got some external people that are just true badasses. But I literally spent, tens of thousands of dollars on figuring it all out. So, and it's not just me, it's, companies and entrepreneurs all over the world. What do you think the biggest challenges or mistakes people make in hiring agencies?
There's three main things that we talk about. The first one is profit retention. So when you are scaling, especially when you're scaling, you don't want to give away money, right? You don't want to sell your soul to the devil. You don't want to say, oh, as long as I get to 7 figures, I don't care how much it's going to cost me. Because at the end of the day, profit is what pays the bills and revenue is for the ego. And so if you have a 7-figure business that has a 10% profit margin, you're still making only $100,000. If you have a $250,000 business and you're retaining $150,000, you are in a better position than the person. I would argue in a much better position, because if you are hitting 7 figures, you probably have a lot of other problems from the operations perspective anyway. So you're working 4 times as hard, but you are making less money. And so that's number one, like profit retention. Second of all, we find that third-party companies are in it for themselves, and it's okay for it to be that way. If I am a third-party company, as an example, we had in the past some of our clients that we had told them, hey, this is when we used to do Facebook and Google ads. Facebook and Google ads are going to be as good as your brand and as your website. But because we have no control over your website, because another agency is working on it, we can only guarantee the amount of clicks that come to your website, not the performance of those clicks. And so our client at that point was kind of giving us a hard time, or I don't want to change my website, like I don't care, blah, blah, blah. And at the end of the day, I was in it for my business, obviously. And I said, like, here's the thing. We can't do anything more than this. And then for 3-4 months, this guy was not able to change things, and he canceled. In short, an agency is there to survive, not to make you, rich at all costs. And so the idea is that when you instead have an internal team, what happens is, yes, it's a marketing team, but if they see that something is not working properly, they can still work internally between, among themselves to figure it out. Clarice from marketing is going to contact Mark in development, or the guy that, takes care of the website. And it's going to say, hey, we noticed that the clicks are not converting. Let's set up a meeting real quick tomorrow after our daily huddle and solve that issue. Now, being nimble at that point, even especially at a smaller business size, it's going to sometimes be, a life or death situation, right? And so the idea is that if you retain these things internally, it's a much better, you have a much better chance of succeeding. And thirdly, the idea is that an agency, again, is there to charge you monthly. And so even if they buy a software one time for you, or if they do something else, they're not going to lower your, your monthly fee because they're spending less. They're going to keep that fee at the same level. Whereas internally, what happens is if you're able to automate something, if you're able to cancel a tool, the savings go right back into your pocket. They're not staying into, someone else's business.
So, yeah, I mean, what I've found, and a lot of agencies don't want to hear this, but there's two things that make sense to me when I hire an agency. And number one, because I've paid to play, and I paid for the education. And so number one for me, and you can let me know if you think this resonates with you, is skin in the game.
Yes, 100%.
Because if you're not willing to put skin in the game, I have marketers approach me all the time, and they want to sell the sales machine. And I'm like, oh, great. What skin are you going to put in the game? And they're like, well, we'll give you $300 every sales call. And we'll make sure you get it, and then you do the sales call. And I'm like, well, $300, that's all you want? You only want $300 a lead? Are you confident in your marketing? Yeah. Are you confident that you can sell? I mean, you're selling to me right now, right? Yep. Well, how about I give you like 30% of a sale? They're like, what do you mean? Yeah, I don't pay you nothing, and I give you 30% of a sale. What's that mean? Well, an average client for me is $10,000. You want to make 300, or you want to make 3,000? Mm-hmm. If you're good at what you do, you ready to put your skin in the game? That's where I find out they get off the rails. It's like the railroad just goes off the rails because they're not willing to put their skin in the game. They're like, no, I want my monthly fee. I'll generate the leads, but I'm not going to close the leads. Anyway, have you ever experienced marketers like that yourself?
We've had a couple of bad experiences in the past, very small, but the reason why, as an agency myself at the very beginning, I had the same mindset that I have right now, which was, if I don't know how to do that, I'll learn how to do that and then resell it to my clients, because that's what the business started a podcast, is a PR mainly business, then transitioned to a bit of podcasting, then into Google ads, Facebook ads, e-commerce management, Shopify management, and all that stuff, Amazon, PPC. And so every time I would experiment something, add it to our roster. And so the idea was I never really had experienced myself big losses with agencies. What I can tell you is that, yeah, we got 2 guarantees. We have a money back guarantee, and then we have what we call a success guarantee. And the idea is that each system has its own threshold of success. So if we install, as an example, podcast booking system into your business, we don't stop working with you until you get your first 3 interviews using our our proprietary system that we've developed for you. And same thing for each one of those systems. And so our clients come in knowing, hey, we learn these things. They obviously retain the materials for their lifetime of their businesses. And then we stick with them until, and sometimes we know that those two guarantees put us also at risk of working with the wrong people sometimes, but we're willing to take the risk because, like you said, if you're willing to put the skin in the game, more people are willing to work with you. So we're getting triple the sales. Sometimes you're going to end up working with someone that's not worth it. Whatever. You fire them. You give them money back. Peace of mind, number one. In my life, it's peace of mind.
You know, there's a coined term out there called the irresistible offer. To me, the irresistible offer means it pays for itself and or there's a money back guarantee. And as long as people and you guys out there listening to this podcast, especially small businesses or even enterprise level businesses, when people are willing to put their skin in the game, and like Deniero, which means money, says, look, if they offer a money back guarantee and a success guarantee, you know you're in the right place. And that's why, you know, I'm really happy to have you on the podcast because we're in alignment with the same philosophy, value, value, value. My entire value is I always want to make irresistible offers. So what's in it for you first and foremost, and how can I make sure you get that? Otherwise, I'll point you somewhere else so that you can get what you want. I'm not going to make promises that I cannot fulfill. So I love that. Now, you did talk about AI, and the whole world's talking about AI. I just put AI in the sales machine because all my United States customers are like, well, does it do AI? Yes, it does. So AI is your co-pilot. It can query the whole system and provide advantages and save you time and money and efficiency. So can you talk a little bit about the AI tools you're using that you can share with the audience to give them value right now?
100%. So things I can look into is some AI-powered cold email outreach systems. One of it's called Instantly.ai. And so this will help you manage hundreds. I believe it's actually unlimited email like mailboxes, so that you can send out thousands of messages and really like have an automated marketing system. Then another one, if you're big in, or your audience is big in creating content, but they don't want to chop up videos and everything else and put them on Reels, TikTok, Instagram, and whatnot. The idea would be to use a tool like Opus. Opus is a tool that generates short form clips, and it helps you actually find the most salient parts of long form videos and turn them into these very neat looking, videos for social media. So this is just a couple. There is more, obviously, but the idea is that nowadays, as long as you have a person, like you said, if you have a team member, or even if you don't have a team member, do it yourself. Just sit down 5-10 minutes, 5-10 minutes a day, look, Google, maybe sign up even for AI, from some AI newsletters. I got a newsletter. I don't even know the name of the newsletter, to be honest, and just read the headlines of all the new tools and developments in the AI world. And I do that because, just like you said, if you keep on your staff, and if you keep yourself informed, you're not going to fall behind. This is a world that's growing super fast. So the idea is be proactive as much as you can so you don't have to regret it after.
I like it. Bite-sized chunks to put out there in email marketing and repurpose everywhere. Yes, that's it, folks. Deniero Bartolini, you can find him on his LinkedIn, and the business is Smart Business. The book,
Smart Business Better You.
The book, Smart Business Better You. Create your own agency. It's his mission to help companies and individuals scale a sustainable system for growth. Thank you very much, Deniero, for being on today. Look forward to sharing this with all of you out there. Big round of applause to Deniero, and we'll talk to you next time.
Thanks, John. It was a pleasure being here today.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to send a review about what you liked on this podcast or share it with somebody who would need it to definitely improve their business, building and scaling sales teams, do me a favor, like, share. It means a lot to me so that we can help others grow and live in abundance. That's a wrap, folks. Thanks for joining me today. And if you got value from this episode, do me a favor, like, subscribe, and refer a friend. And if you want even more value, go to thesalesmachine.com, click on resources, and there's tons of resources there to increase profits and drive performance in your business. Right on, come on.